Hi and welcome to IMGA Podcasts. My name is Sasha and I will be hosting today's episode. In the previous episodes, we've already talked about Golden Visa program and its main legal requirements. And one of them is to invest in funds that are eligible for this program. That's why today we're going to talk about IMGA Ações Portugal, the fund that gives exposure to Portuguese equity market and that is also eligible for Golden Visa program. And for this, I have with me today David Afonso, one of the managers of Equities Department here at IMGA, and also one of the managers of IMGA Ações Portugal fund. He will walk us through what makes this fund so special, its key advantages, and how it fits into the Golden Visa program. Hi, David, and thanks for being here.
Hi.
Let's get started. And I'd like to start with the basics. Could you tell us, please, what exactly is IMGA Ações Portugal Fund is about and how it did become eligible for the Golden Visa program?
Sure, Sasha. Thank you so much for having me and having this opportunity to talk a little bit about one of our most inquired funds. Well, this fund is pretty easy to explain. It's a plain vanilla, long-only mutual equity fund, okay? It's called IMGA Ações Portugal, which literally translates to IMGA Portuguese Equities. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it provides the investors the ability to have exposure to the Portuguese companies and the Portuguese equity market. This fund was not designed specifically for the Golden Visa program. Let me give you a little bit of history. This fund was created in 1995, so it turns 30 this year, so we have to throw a big party for it. But actually, it just so that happens that it complies with the Golden Visa rules. 30 years ago, the main objective was to give the Portuguese retail investors this kind of quick and diversified exposure to the Portuguese companies that he knows well about. But it so that happens that also for the Golden Visa program, it complies with the two main hard rules that are important for the Golden Visa program. One of the hard rules is the fund must invest at least 60% of its investment in Portuguese companies, and by prospectus the fund already invests more than that percentage. And the other hard rule is that the fund needs to have a maturity greater than 5 years. And this being an equity mutual fund, it actually doesn't have a specified maturity. I mean, the fund is designed to long until the last investor wants to withdraw its money. So we have been experiencing great success with this fund. A lot of interest from the international community. Let me give you some numbers to try to put a figure in this claim. So five years ago, in the end of January 2020, this fund had around a little bit below 25 million euros. Okay. And just last month, so in the end of January 2025, it had more than 250 million euros. So an increase of tenfold in just 5 years. We have nowadays more than 3,500 investors, okay, wow, and with more than 40 nationalities.
Right. David, you've mentioned that, a lot of interest recently in the fund. What do you think, what are the main advantages for investors that choose IMGA Ações Portugal in this case, and in this case for Golden Visa
program? I will give you a handful of advantages. I mean, from the feedback that we are getting from the investors, I mean, there are 5 I would for sure highlight. So the first one would be transparency. I mean, right, I put myself in the shoes of an international investor that's coming to invest in a country that maybe he doesn't know a lot about, he doesn't know the companies, he doesn't know the economy. And for sure what I would want and what we see that they want is transparency. I mean, in every single day you can check the value of your investment in our website, in the website of our regulator, of course in the websites of the banks that you make the subscription of the fund. Every single day you can check the value of your investment, and this is very important, gives a lot of tranquility to the investor. And in another sense, because being this an equity mutual fund, it has also the transparency of its assets. I mean, you can check what's the value of a single stock in the equity market in every single day, every single moment. Okay, so it's very transparent in that sense. The second most important feature of this fund in the Golden Visa terms is liquidity. I mean, it can happen. The investor doesn't want to pursue anymore the Golden Visa program. The investor may need the money right away. So it's very easy. You just make the redemption request, and 4 business days later you have your money back. Okay, so also no frills. The third one is actually flexibility, in 2 senses. In one, you have the flexibility of the investments that are below the fund, because the fund is an active managed fund. You have always a manager trying to pursue the best investment opportunities at any given point in time, okay? And also the flexibility in terms of your own allocation inside the Golden Visa program, because you can ask and change the allocation between the Portuguese equity fund that we are talking about here and the other eligible funds like the Portuguese corporate debt that IMGA also offers, and also the private equity funds as well. The fourth one is safety. Safety in the sense that the assets of the fund belong to the fund owners, okay? It doesn't belong to the banks, it doesn't belong to IMGA, it belongs to the owners. They are safeguarded in terms of if something happens to the bank, if something happens to the asset management company, it doesn't matter. The funds belong to the fund holders, okay? And then the fifth one, it's also very interesting. It's a diversification of a global portfolio. What is this? I mean, what we are seeing is that the investors coming from the Golden Visa program are a little bit more sophisticated and already with market exposure, okay? And most often than not to US equities. I mean, it's the biggest equity market in the world. So what happens is that the US market is very skewed towards technology, right?
Right.
And the Portuguese equity market has more predominance in terms of the utility sector. So this kind of uncorrelation gives you an advantage in this sense. Let me give you a specific example. In 2022, it was a bad year for equities. For example, the S&P fell something like
20%, right?
Exactly, almost 20%. Nasdaq slumped more than 30%. But actually, our fund, the IMGA Ações Portugal, was actually capable of increase its value in almost 5%.
Right. David, and you already started to explain, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper into the question that I'm going to ask. How the investment process work?
Okay, that's very important, and it's one of the most frequently asked questions about. So we use a topic approach, okay? The fund is an UCITS fund. This is a very ugly word that it just means that it obeys the European diversification rules, okay? So the funds in Europe that are UCITS, they all obey to this rule. And it's basically, for us in our daily basis, it's two rules that we have to watch out really close. One of them is that no asset can be worth more than 10%, okay? And the assets that worth between 5 and 10% altogether cannot be worth more than 40%, okay? So we need to be really picky in choosing the usually 4 stocks that we put in this bracket of our topics, okay? Below this threshold, below this top 4 picks, and this threshold of 5%, we have a little bit more leeway in terms of the way that we allocate to every single security, but it's of course always a duel between its expected return and its risks. Besides, we also use futures in the Portuguese stock index, okay, just to top up of our overall market exposure. And besides that, and very recently, we opened up the possibility to invest up to 10% in other European equities, but this is in any way affects the eligibility for the Golden Visa program.
Right, David. And what are the profiles of the companies that made into the portfolio of the fund?
Okay, so in Portugal, sector-wise, utilities is the most important sector. Okay, so we have 3 companies listed in this sector, but they altogether weigh more than 25% of the index, okay? And besides this already defensive sector, we also have the consumer staple sector, which is also very important because we have also 2 listed companies that are quite big as well. So you can see that the index is a little bit skewed towards defensive companies and sectors. And if you compare, for example, with the US, where we have, as we discussed previously, a lot of tech in the index, in Portugal we do not have this kind of growth factor that we can see in this sector in the US. We have a little bit more quality companies, okay, with already well-established business models. There are often business leaders in the sector that where they operate. So there's for sure this different approach in the US and in Portugal.
Right. David, and you've already mentioned it in the very beginning, but for those considering the golden visa through this fund, what is the required holding period?
So by the golden visa rules, you have to have invested in eligible vehicle for at least 5 years, okay?
And is there any specific reason for that? As far as I understood, it's because of the residency advantages.
Yes, exactly. So you have to at least hold that for that period, so that when you ask for the residence and whatsoever, you have to prove that you have that investment for at least that time period.
Okay. And once again, speaking of performance, could you tell us how the fund has done over the past 5 years, precisely for the reasons of the previous question?
Exactly. So in the last 5 years, so thinking, for example, an investor that entered in January 2020 and already ended this maturity of the duration of the Golden Visa program in January 2025, the fund increased 35.5%, which gives around a compounded annual growth rate of around 6.3%.
Okay. David, thank you very much for sharing these insights and helping us to understand better IMGA Ações Portugal fund, and I feel like it's a very useful information for our international investors.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And to our listeners and followers, if you have any particular interest in this fund or any other investment opportunities, go check out our website at imga.pt, where you can find direct contacts to our commercial department. And don't forget to follow us on social media for more content about market updates and our company's updates. Thank you very much for being here with us today. See you next time and take care.
Any knowledge or opinion presented are for information purposes only and are subject to change without prior notice. Any returns information disclosed represents past data and is not a guarantee for the future returns. Investing in funds may result in a loss of invested capital if the fund does not have a capital guarantee. For any further information, please contact us on our social networks at IM Gestão de Ativos.